Hi everyone, welcome to section 9.4b. We're going to solve quadratic equations by completing the square. In 9.4a we completed the square. Now we're going to just talk about that square root property and kind of different situations we can use it. I debated about doing this first and 9.4a second, decided to go this way. So all this stuff kind of comes together. So first of all, when we're going to solve using the square root property, I'm going to give you a trinomial, and I'm going to basically say, check it to see if the trinomial can be written as a perfect square binomial. So when we check that, we're going to check to see, is C equal to half of B squared? If it is, I'm even going to put a little check by it. That means that I am ready to go. I know that I can just skip all the other, take half of B, square it, add it inside, subtract it outside, because all that work's already been done for me. So we're going to write this as x plus a number. We're probably actually going to have, instead of equal to k, we're probably going to have plus k equals 0. And then we're going to isolate the parentheses. Remember, I mentioned that in 9.4a. Once we do that, we're going to square root both sides of the equation. Don't forget, when you square root a number, you get a positive and a negative value. For example, the square root of 9 is positive 3 and negative 3. That's where we get two solutions from. And last but not least, you'll solve those two equations from those two answers, positive and negative. So let's do a couple practice problems. The first one is already written as a perfect square binomial. Notice it's got an x plus 8 quantity squared equals 16. In other words, we're starting halfway through the problem. All the hard work's been done for us. We're just going to figure out what is x equal to. Well, if we're going to figure out what x is equal to, that means we're trying to get that x by itself. First thing I have to do is get rid of the squared. And how do you get rid of a squared? Square root both sides, right? Remember how we mentioned squaring and square rooting are inverse operations, so we're left with an x plus 8. Square root of 16 is not only 4, it's negative 4 as well. Don't forget the two solutions. Two answers when taking a square root. Then we're going to break that up. We're going to have two equations to solve. X plus 8 equals positive 4. X plus 8 equals negative 4. Notice the only thing that changed when I wrote out those two equations was the positive and the negative. I don't change any signs on the 8s or anything else. So I'm going to solve these guys. I'm going to subtract 8. When I do that, for one of my answers, I get positive 4 minus 8 is negative 4. For my other answer, I get negative 4 minus 8 is negative 12. So that's what it looks like if it's already a perfect square binomial. It's already in those parentheses with the squared. Practice 2 is we've got ourselves a trinomial equals 81. Well, usually I'd say, oh, what's the problem with this problem? Let's make it equal to 0. We'll go from there. But before I do that, let's see if we can save ourselves a little work. So we set up in the above, is C equal to half of B and then square it? So in other words, what is half of B? Half of negative 6 equals negative 3. Square it, and you get a 9, which is exactly what we have there. So we don't have to do any adding inside, subtracting outside. We get to take a shortcut. So we've got ourselves, and it's equal to 81. We don't even have to isolate the parentheses when we're done. So remember in here, this is going to be our variable, and this is going to be our half of B. So what is the variable in this particular problem? What was our half of B, including the sign? So I've got a C minus 3 quantity squared equals 81. So now we're ready to solve this guy. So I'm going to square root both sides. Square root and squaring cancel each other out. So I'm left with a C minus 3 equals, what is the square root of 81? We get a nice neat number here. We could get decimals. That's all right. So here I get a positive and negative 9. So I'm going to have two equations. A c minus 3 equals positive 9. A c minus 3 equals negative 9. And I'm going to solve these the old-fashioned way. So I get a 12. Add 3 to everything. And I get a negative 6. So it's kind of eliminating all the work that we had to do from section 9.4a. This half of the work is already done for us, which is kind of nice. It's like they already scooched, took half of b and squared it. I'm going to do the first half of this problem because I want to reiterate the checking, and then I'm going to let you finish this one off. So it's got a y squared plus 12y plus 36 equals 10. Before we do anything, let's check and see, is c equal to half of b squared? So what's my c value? Whoops, I don't know why I wrote that. What's my c value? What's my b value? Let's take half of b. So half of 12 equals 6. Square that and you get 36, exactly what we're looking for. So let's do our factoring shortcut. Nothing changes except for the factoring. So what's my variable? What's my half of b, including the sign? Now I'm ready to go. This is an easy one. The square root property says that we're allowed to take the square root of both sides. Only when you take the square root of this one, squaring and square rooting undo each other. We know that this is going to be a positive and negative. What is the square root of 10? It's not a perfect square, right? So we're going to have to do a little bit of crazy math. So I think it was a positive and negative, gosh, I can't even remember. It's 3 point something. 3.16. It doesn't matter that I have crazy numbers here. I'm still going to do a y plus 6 equals positive 3.16. Y plus 6 equals negative 3.16. You finish that one off, and you'll get decimal answers. I believe they're both going to be negative. So, lesson summary. How can you tell if a trinomial is already a perfect square and ready to go in parentheses, or to shortcut for the factoring? How do you know? What do you check? What do you do? And I'm going to have you do this problem. Solve this. I got decimals in here. That's all right. So I would do a quick check first, see if you can go to parentheses or if you're going to have to approach this some other crazy, ridiculous way. All right. We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening.